Labdien. Labdien, Latvia. So, really sorry I don't have any balls with me that I'm gonna throw, but yeah. You know, just before I start, I want to tell that during the break I went just to walk around and went to the coast. And guys, you have amazing city, like really beautiful building, and I'd like you to give a round of applause to yourself because really great place. So yeah, I guess not many of you have heard about my company called Table Air, or neither about myself, so I'll try to give you a quick story about how I came to this stage, and you know, just give a brief understanding of where I'm coming from and who am I to talk about creativity. So everything started at 1999 when, together with my friend from the yard, we started building games on a PC computer, and then we were installing them on the floppy disks and we're selling it to classmates. It was simple games like Snake, and this interest with computers was continuous, and in 2006 we published a first Lithuanian strategy game that was sold in CDs all over Lithuania, and that was a big deal for a young teenager. And from 2008 I was kind of shifted a little bit and was working on illustrations and apps and all these various things, and was just trying to find myself what, you know, I really like to do. And these are a few examples of work I was doing, and I was experimenting with various techniques and subjects. I was doing storyboards, illustrations for books, and did even some animation projects. This idea was for the new way to bury people, because, you know, you're born in fetus position, and we were thinking maybe you could die in the fetus position as well, so it would be an interesting new way, new concept of burials. One interesting project I had was in Suriname. This is a small nation in South Africa of 500,000 people, and I designed one of their first petrol stations. So I was really doing all kind of interesting stuff. And in 2009, I started working with startups, and that's where my entrepreneurial side came back into play. I graduated a bachelor's degree in interactive design, fell in love in the first time. It was a very interesting time, and co-founded my second company, Pixel Punch, which is a creative agency that develops software solutions like apps, games, in particular with augmented reality. And then I moved to London, where I got a lot of experience working on large projects, as, for example, with JP Morgan Investment Bank. And long hours at the office in London resulted in my back pain, my neck started hurting, and I thought that there must be a solution to this problem. And I found that there is this concept of a standing desk. So the idea is very simple. So rather than sit all day, you can swap between sitting and standing. And there are these desks already being sold, and they're nice and all, but I couldn't find the one that I really loved. So then together with some of my friends, we decided to build our own standing desk. And that's how, in 2014, my company, Table Air, was born. We co-founded it with the same person that we actually were doing games when we were still at school. So we have a short video to show how the table looks like. If you could please play it. Yeah, well, you get the idea. But the thing is that usual sit-stand workstations have these two boring up and down buttons. You click one, the table goes up, the other goes down. When you click the other, the table goes down. We came up with a sensor that lets you control table in a very intuitive way. So you just put your hand above the table surface, it senses the distance to your hand, and lifts up to match the height. I mean, I would need another presentation just to talk about it, but basically, at 2015, we got coverage from Wired magazine, New York Times. Sales started picking up, and straight after, we got a VC investment to fund our startup. So at that moment, I had two businesses. I was stressed out. I was working from 7 till 12 o'clock in the evening, had no personal life. We broke up with this lovely girlfriend. I was overweight, consumed a lot of alcohol, and even had microstroke. And I realized that, okay, maybe I should just think about what I'm doing and just continue with one project, which is TableAir. And I'm just concentrating on that and working on making, the next products for the office for tomorrow. And so far, we've already raised 600,000 euros, and we are having a very, very exciting product line lined up. So, if you just hook up to any social network, go look for TableAir, and you can follow us there. And yeah, so if I'm looking at 100 years ahead, it's most important things. Like there are 7 billion of us on this planet, everybody with their own ideas, desires. There is no need to stress out. Like there's a very, very nice song. I don't remember by whom, but they say we're just destined to win. So, let's just do what we love, and great stuff will come out of it. So, after going through this experience, I analyzed how I look at the creative problem solving. And I see that there are two main ways how you can approach a creative challenge. One is decorative, and another is revolutionary. Both of them are viable, and both of them are quite good. And and if we look at this imaginary problem, so for example, imagine you are a manufacturer, and somebody commissions you to build a new drinking glass that everyone wants to buy and use. So if you look at this problem from a decorative point of view, you will try to play with already existing stuff, like, for example, play with dimensions, size, material, patterns on the glass, and you can create something really nice just by altering those existing dimensions. And these are quite nice, designs. They are cool products, and you can make a good living out of producing them until something revolutionary comes along. And there is this very nice episode from Pixar animation Ratatouille, where there is this little mouse who likes eating, just trying different tastes. So revolutionary design is when you're taking something very, very not obvious and trying to mix them together. So if I'll try to explain it a little bit more precise. So what we need to do, we need to take the product, and it can be a process, it can be a concept, it can be anything. But we need to take it and dissect the fundamental elements. And so if you take glass, for example, it's what's the purpose for the glass? It's store the material. It can be liquid most often. It can be flour or anything else. It's also used to consume the liquid. And why do we consume liquid? To get fluids, or maybe just to have a good taste? Or so we need to challenge those things, and maybe a revolutionary glass is something that you attach on your face, and the liquid is being absorbed from time to time. But revolutionary ideas are very often ahead of their time. So when you have this exciting mix that we talked about, you always have to include practical elements. We're living in socio-economical times when consumerism is very important, and people are voting with their wallets. So very important to include business model into this equation. So it's not always about the details. You have to look at the full picture, and because human beings are emotional and predictable, you always will have this element of surprise. So don't try to make it very, very technical, because sometimes the actual result lies in a very surprising places. So, yeah. Well, because I'm coming, from the tech background, the problem that we very often see is that people come up with ideas that are not yet viable because of the technology is still not at the level which needed to produce that product. So, for example, teleportation is a very good idea, but we still don't have tech to support it. So rather than scrutinizing the concept, just try to do something passionate, something you're passionate about. Try to include the things that you really care into the mix. And because I also wanted to talk a little bit about routine, it's commonly thought that routine is it's killing creativity. But we need to look a little bit broader at the routine rather than just a time structure. Look at it as a structure for your life. What kind of people you surround yourself with, what kind of habits do you develop for yourself, and there are some things that why you're waking up in the mornings, and you can actually choose what do you want those things to be. So you can kind of re-engineer yourself. And there's a very good website, crew.co, and they have a very good article about routine-based creativity. And they have also this very nice chart of very famous people and what kind of routines they were following. And one thing they found in common is that creative people use routine to foster creativity rather than waiting for it to appear from nowhere. So don't be afraid to to have some sort of structure, but don't put it above what you actually love. So creative problem solving is simply trying until you succeed. And many people said this before, so you just have to keep on going, try, and eventually your product, your project will be successful. And you can apply these methods really on any sort of creative activity, either it's drawing, animation, design, business. And yeah, it's sometimes not obvious, so you just have to keep on going, and yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Paldies.